But because meat has also been deemed yet something else that is destroying the planet, the woke narcissists of compassion are already insisting that people eat less of it.
Hey, this is Ryan of Happy Healthy Vegan, and today I'm going to respond to this video put out by pseudo-fake intellectual Jordan Peterson trashing the United States food pyramid and the USDA food guidelines. And once again, I want to thank, I believe it's my moderator Peter, who suggested on my Friday live stream that I should check out this video, because in this video not only does he talk smack on the US food pyramid, he's pretty much dissing eating plants and takes a few cheap shots at veganism. So before we get started, I want to point out, I already know that Mike the Vegan did a video about the same topics, and I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to make sure that my reactions here are purely and authentically my own and not influenced by Mike in any way. And I'll watch Mike's video as soon as I'm done uploading this. And before I get started, I want to just ask a question out there. Maybe it's a rhetorical question, but why do so many people have to attack veganism? Why are these fake intellectuals like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Piers Morgan, and now Jordan Peterson picking on vegans and veganism? Like, why do you have to pick on us for? Like, what's the point? Like, why can't we just do what we do? Why is all this bigotry and stuff? So anyway, let's jump in and see what Jordan Peterson said about vegans this time.
In such circumstances, in the face of such mandatory privations and manipulations, it's obvious that the last thing our tyrannical, idiot, panicked, virtue-signaling governments should be doing.
All right, just got to stop Jordan here for a second. The philosopher in me is laughing. As someone who's been trained in philosophy proper, I have a degree, I was in a PhD program. He's not really all that much of a philosopher. I know he fancies himself as one, but one thing he's really good at is this flowery word salad, just stringing together all these long, fancy words together like he's saying something really profound. I mean, let's hear that again. What did he say?
Our tyrannical, idiot, panicked, virtue-signaling governments should be doing is directing their demented attention toward regulating what people serve at their tables.
Regulating what people serve at their tables. It makes it sound like there's some kind of fascist authoritarianism going on, like regulating what people serve on their tables. There's no such thing. He's talking about the food pyramid, the United States food pyramid, which is nothing of the sort. It's not telling people what they can or can't put on their tables. It's merely a representation of the optimal servings of different food groups you should eat throughout the day. There's nothing fascist about this, Jordan. Stop with your BS flowery language. And, you know, I'm just tripping on his outfit here, you know, and all that wood in the back. What is he trying to represent? I mean, the suit, I mean, should I wear something like that? Would you trust what I say even more if I were dressed like Jordan? All right, so what do you think, guys? Do I look more like a true social media intellectual like Jordan Peterson now? Maybe people will take me more seriously now. Comment down below. Should I wear suits in all my videos now so people think I'm a serious philosopher intellectual?
But because meat has also been deemed yet something else that is destroying the planet, the woke narcissists of compassion are already insisting that people eat less of it.
I mean, you gotta love Jordan's word salad. I mean, the woke narcissist of compassion. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, that's amazing. I wish I could have thought of that. I'm gonna make that a new t-shirt for our channel. I mean, I want to wear that. I want to be a woke narcissist of compassion.
Plants and bugs for you and your children, peasants. And the sooner you get accustomed to it, or else, the better.
Aha, so that's what these woke narcissists of compassion are up to. They're out insisting that everyone in the world eats plants and bugs. I mean, I'm down with that, except for the bugs, completely unnecessary. You can just eat plants, as I've been doing for 12 years, perfectly healthy, no problems. But let's get down to this classist thing he's making veganism out to be, or eating plants, calling it peasant stuff. I mean, can you anti-vegans make up your mind? I mean, on most of my live streams, I get some joker anti-vegan coming on saying, you know, you're eating a privileged white diet. I'm not even white. I'm not even rich. And now you have Jordan Peterson talking about how it's peasant stuff. I mean, can you guys even like make up your mind? Like, which is it?
Let's turn our attention to the claim that animal husbandry and the meat it produces cheaply enough for everyone to afford is unsustainable. for a moment, because we haven't yet dispensed with enough moralizing and authoritarian stupidity.
I mean, Jordan just is unable to stop his flowery word salad. For our purposes here, let's try to dispense with this flowery stupidity and just look at his claim here that it's totally sustainable to produce meat. All these people saying it's unsustainable are lying. Well, first of all, let's look at a video I made a few years ago responding to the people who are saying that grass-fed beef will save the world. We need to feed the world grass-fed beef. And it just simply doesn't add up. I got the most conservative figures and numbers and data to calculate how many earths we would need, how much land mass we would need to feed everyone grass-fed beef on this planet, and we would need several earths. So there goes that argument. But I don't think Jordan is talking about grass-fed beef. He's talking about feeding people meat in general. And here we can look at what the science says. The general scientific consensus is reflected by the United Nations. And they're really clear on this, that animal agriculture is destroying our planet. In fact, it produces more greenhouse gas emissions than all of transportation combined. I know Jordan later on in this video cited some data from the United States government, but we're all on this planet together. So, I mean, we have to look at this as a global problem, which it is. So if we are to believe actual science, scientific consensus, rather than anti-scientific conspiracy theories, let's look at what the United Nations actually recommends. They are not being woke narcissists of compassion telling people they must stop eating meat, insisting that, as Jordan says. Instead, they've put out here what are the most climate-friendly diets as far as greenhouse gas emissions goes. And guess what number one is? Vegan. Number two, vegetarian. And by the way, all these recommendations and reports from the United Nations comes from their climate change committee. So who can believe a group of scientists that have reviewed the scientific literature and came to these conclusions, or some guy in a tan suit with a bunch of flowery language denying what the science says?
Remember what happened the last time that government agencies applied their tender mercy to determining what the people they serve should consume? We were offered the much vaunted food pyramid, telling us to eat 6 to 11 servings of grains and carbohydrates a day.
Oh my God, 6 to 11 servings of grains and carbohydrates a day. And notice how he's using a word that triggers a lot of people, especially people who aren't that well informed about nutrition, like I assume Jordan himself is. Carbohydrates. I mean, most people, when they hear the word carbs, carbohydrates, they're thinking of donuts and stuff like that, not whole food plants, and there's not donuts on the food pyramid. That's what he's talking about here. Anyway, let's continue on.
With protein and fat at the pinnacle, something to be indulged in with comparative rarity, if indeed necessary at all.
I'm not a medical doctor, nutritionist, and neither is Jordan for that matter, but I do know for an absolute fact that it is necessary for the human body to consume fats and proteins. Please share with me any health organization from anywhere in this world that's recommending that people can get by just fine by avoiding any protein or fat in their diet. I mean, as far as I know, you would die without having any fat or protein.
That all turned out to be wrong. And not just a little wrong, but so wrong that it might as well have been not just wrong.
So the food pyramid is more than just wrong. It's so wrong, it's a whole new category of wrong?
But a veritable anti-truth. Something as wrong as it could possibly get.
Aha, the food pyramid is an anti-truth. This whole notion of eating 6 to 11 servings of grains and carbohydrates a day, that's an anti-truth. Please tell me more, Jordan.
The food pyramid was brought into being not least by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. That is, by marketers, not scientists or nutritionists, with no shortage whatsoever of lobby efforts by those whose products ended up being promoted.
Well, Jordan finally got one thing right here, but it's not in the way he thinks. He is right in the sense that there has been this competition between should the USDA follow the science or be influenced by the lobbying groups of food producers. And this is a well-known fact. You just go to the Wikipedia page for food pyramid, and they speak very clearly about how, say, for example, the milk industry lobbies the USDA to include milk as one of the food groups, implying it's something we must eat, despite the fact that there's a majority of people on this planet who are lactose intolerant. And there's people like me and the millions of other vegans who consume no dairy whatsoever, and we're doing just fine. And Dr. Greger of nutritionfacts.org has talked about this before. Again, it's not like the potato or broccoli industry that's using their lobbying influence to get broccoli placed higher on the food pyramid.
Reduce intake of saturated fat means reduce intake of cheese, ice cream, pizza, and chicken. But they can't just come out and say that. In their letter to the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, the National Pork Board, in what almost sounds like a threat, cautions the committee against making any decisions which would limit the ability of Americans to choose more pork.
So no, Jordan, it wasn't your fantasy of this evil broccoli lobby trying to lobby to get carbohydrates more prominently placed in the food pyramid. It was your milk, egg, and dairy industries.
The dietary recommendation to prioritize carbohydrates produced a veritable epidemic of obesity and diabetes, resulting in what has been deemed by reliable researchers as one of the worst public health disasters of all time.
So let's take a closer look at this carbohydrate prioritizing food pyramid that Jordan asserts is wrecking the health of our citizens. Yeah, up top, fats, oils, and sweets used sparingly. Then you got this bogus milk, yogurt, dairy group that doesn't need to be on there. Then you have your typical meat that people eat, 2 to 3 servings. Then 3 to 5 servings, a comparable amount of vegetables, 2 to 4 servings of fruit, which are high in carbohydrate. Then here's what he doesn't like, the 6 to 11 servings of simple foods like breads, cereals, rice, and pasta. And this food pyramid is not too far off from how I eat, minus the dairy and meat parts of the pyramid. I mean, how is this diet supposed to wreck the health of America? And then, is this really how America is truly eating?
Dooming almost the entire Western population to a lifetime of catastrophic chronic health problems.
What the F are you talking about, Jordan? How is eating grains and potatoes and fruits and vegetables going to cause a lifetime of chronic health problems?
42% of Americans are obese. Another almost equally large percentage are overweight. At least a third are in the early or later stages of diabetes, which is an exceptionally serious disease.
So if you didn't see what Jordan just tried to do there, I'll point it out for you. He's trying to assert that there's indeed a causality between the food pyramid guidelines and people following those food pyramid guidelines, which I truly doubt most Americans are, and that causing diseases like obesity and diabetes, which is complete nonsense. I mean, the evidence is actually to the contrary. What Jordan is stating here is so wrong, it's a new kind of wrong. It's an anti-truth. For instance, in the Adventist Health Study 2, where there are over 60,000 subjects, let's look at the BMIs and the prevalence of type 2 diabetes amongst several dietary categories, ranging from non-vegetarian all the way to vegan. Remember, vegans are the ones eating all the plants, the carbohydrates, the grains, and all that. So you'd think if Jordan were right, the vegans would have the higher BMIs because he's blamed America's obesity problem on eating all these plants. And nope, the vegans were the only group that had a BMI under 25, which is considered healthy. In diabetes, again, vegans had the lowest rates of type 2 diabetes. No, but Jordan seems to firmly believe that people who eat the most plants, the most grains and carbohydrates are the ones that have the higher rates of diabetes. And if that were true, as I like to do, let's look at the real world. It's so easy for anyone just to make up a bunch of nonsense and say whatever the hell they want, but let's see how what he says, how that reflects on the actual real world that we live in here. So if what he were saying were true, you'd think areas where people are more plant-based, like say the West Coast, East Coast, you'd have the highest rates of diabetes. But no, you go to the southern states, the Bible Belt, where it's traditionally more, meat eating and dietary patterns like veganism are not that popular there. They have the highest rates of diabetes and obesity too. So what are you saying, Jordan? This high prevalence of diabetes in America's Bible Belt is due to all the pasta and rice and bananas consumed there? I don't think so, bro.
$1.7 trillion is spent annually on chronic illness in the US. And the rise in such illness and cost is directly associated with the beginning of the God-forsaken top-down dietary guidelines that set us all on a carbohydrate-heavy dietary pathway.
I mean, that's just complete nonsense, Jordan. I probably consume more carbohydrates in a day than I assume Jordan probably consumes in a week, and I have my blood tests up. I'd love to see Jordan's labs. I thought he's been in the hospital quite a lot. And if you look at the position statements of health organizations from around the world, they're in clear, unanimous agreement that diets that are full of plants, vegan and vegetarian diets, are not only nutritionally adequate for all people in all stages of life, they actually have a beneficial effect on lowering your disease risk for what you're talking about here, obesity and diabetes.
So the health benefits of a pure vegetarian and vegan diet are dubious at best.
Not sure what health benefits that vegan diets supposedly have or don't have that Jordan's going off about here. But again, let's return to the position statements that I showed earlier. These are health organizations. They have professionals, medical doctors, researchers, PhDs who reviewed the scientific literature, and they know how to understand it. And they came to their conclusions and felt so strong about it, they made position statements on the nutritional adequacy of vegan and vegetarian diets. If the research had shown there were any real increased risk of having diabetes or becoming obese, these position statements would have made that warning clear to us, but they didn't, because there isn't any such thing. Who are you going to believe? Actual experts and researchers in these fields that they're experts in, or some guy wearing a tan suit with no nutritional background whatsoever other than trying a carnivore diet for a few years and going to the hospital a few times? Not to do an ad hominem attack on him, just saying, Jordan's not a nutritional expert, and neither am I. So if you're trying to understand who to listen to as far as who to believe on the matter, I would take the opinions of actual researchers and experts in the field rather than some dumb half-rate philosophers like me and Jordan. And again, if Jordan were right, being vegan or vegetarian would be pretty much the same as being diabetic, eating all these horrible carbohydrates. So anyway, I know this video is getting quite long. I thought I was going to keep this one under 10 minutes, and there's more in his video that I could get to, but we'll just watch Mike the Vegan's video. I'm sure he handled the whole thing and handled it well. So anyway, guys, leave your questions and comments down below. Let me know if I should continue wearing a suit and jacket so I could put on an air of importance and whatever Jordan's got going on there. And tell me if I should keep a big stack of wood behind me at all times as well to make it sound like I'm really like a manly man chopping wood for my cabin. We don't do that here in California. I go surfing, I play basketball. That's my thing. I doubt even Jordan could chop all that wood. I bet he'd be out of breath. Let me know if he chops some wood down there. I'd like to know. Anyway, guys, gotta get going. So remember, guys, hit like, subscribe, and remember, don't suck being vegan.